Good morning. We're looking at this here 2007 album by Fall Out Boy called Infinity on High. Infinity on High. What did I say? Infinity? Infinity on High. I got this secondhand. Can't remember exactly because I remember two different times. Once I found this in a shop and I was like, oh, get this. And then I looked inside and it was missing a CD, which is the case. And I thought, oh, well, I can't get this. But then, obviously, subsequently, I did find it intact with the case. This would have been about $1 max. Can't imagine it being much over that. The condition is pretty good. So 2007, it's not that old though, is it? No cracks or anything like that. The teeth and the jewel case are intact. The CD plays fine and has no major scratches. So Fall Out Boy, if you don't know, which you probably do if you're watching this, are I guess how would you class them? Pop punk. I think they started more as a punk band and became progressively more pop punk. Although that first album was it Under the Cork Tree, I think it's called. From Under the Cork Tree. That was pretty pop punk as well. So maybe just pop punk. And then they maybe became more pop rock and just almost just pop in some sense by this album. I haven't listened to much past this. The album after this, what's that? Folie, Folie something deux. Um, Folie à deux. I haven't really listened to that very much. And then the newer stuff that they've released after their hiatus, I haven't listened to anything. So I can't comment too much on that. But I will say that I like this album a lot. And it kind of doesn't fit with things that I usually like. Because to be honest, pop punk is something that I've never really fully embraced. Where it was very, very popular at periods in my youth and amongst my friends and stuff like that. But even the bigger like Green Day and Offspring and those guys, I never really liked. I would say I didn't like them. Green Day, actually, I would say Green Day I did like, but they were never like my thing. They were kind of more incidental, like, oh, that's a good song, or that I don't like that song, but it was never something that I really loved a lot. And this came out in 2007. I remember this came out when I was living in Japan, and I read a review of a live concert they did. Just can't remember. I think I was reading a music magazine, and at the back of the music magazine had concert reviews, and it was talking at the show, and then it mentioned one of the songs. It said, "Oh, they did this song, and this blah blah song is one of the best pop rock songs written in the last 20 years." And it kind of intrigued me. So I wonder what that sounds like. So I think the song they were talking about was the takeover, the takeover, the breaks over, the second song, which was one of the big singles from this. And so I downloaded that. I was living in Japan, and I liked the song. Again, it was very different from the kind of stuff that I usually liked. In 2007, I was more into kind of metal. I was in a bit of a metal phase. Prog, progressive metal, power metal, a lot of kind of Scandinavian metal. So, well, I wasn't necessarily listening to a lot of more pop music, but I liked that song the first time I heard it. I don't even know why I liked it, but I did. And so I downloaded more stuff, and I ended up downloading the whole album over over a couple of months, song by song. I think I did, and I think I've said before that when I was in this period, 2006, 2007 was the first time I bought an iPod. A little bit late to the party, but anyway, so it was kind of my first time of having, portable music of everything together. So I remember having a lot of memories of listening to Fall Out Boy on my iPod, walking to work, taking the train, stuff like that. And so I listened to it like really heavily for like a year period, 2007, 2008. I listened to this album a lot. And then I just kind of didn't listen to it. Not because I did, it's just kind of things. I have kind of two settings for music where it's either I listen to something a lot and then it opens up a world where I'll dig into that genre more, or I'll listen to one particular band but they're really not go any further, and then once I kind of find something else, I kind of leave behind. Not again, not that I don't like it or I'm necessarily over it or anything like that. It's just, yeah. And now that actually I do have a memory of what was the single on the album after this, on Folie Deux. I think there was a single that, the first single they released, and I didn't like it. I Don't Care. There was something about that single I didn't like. I think it was the backing vocals and the hook, if I from my memory, and so maybe that put me off of the. Anyway, I'm rambling a lot here, but this album is very solid, as in it's really there aren't that many. There's a lot of really good songs on it, and even the songs that I don't necessarily like, I think are still quite catchy and well written. For example, the first song they've got there, Thriller, I don't like that song, and I think they do this thing. They use a Jay-Z does the intro, but in a completely like it just doesn't. It has no purpose. It's just like, oh, here's a famous guy. Like I know they knew him. Obviously, they had some kind of relationship with him where they felt they could call him and ask him to do it. But like, what does he have to do with the music? He doesn't like. It's not part of their story or anything like that. And it's just kind of like they stuck him on because, oh look, Jay-Z, aren't we cool? We got Jay-Z to intro album. And yeah, I just don't like that song Thriller that much. Then it gets to the next two songs, which are both just really are pop rock classics. And I can understand maybe some people don't like them, but like I said, the Takeover, the Breaks Over, that was the first song I heard off this album. And first time I heard it, I liked that. I like the song Don't Pretend You'll Ever Forget About Me. I always like that line. And then the same scene, It's an Arms Race, which is very poppy. That song, I guess the chorus has got quite a bit of a rock edge to it, but the chorus is something you could hear just from a legitimate just pop album. Like it's got quite the production and the instrumentation they're using in the core, and the verses don't sound necessarily rock at all. Hallelujah. Sorry, I skipped one there. Sorry. I'm a lawyer. I'm like a lawyer with the way I'm always trying to get you off. Very long song titles. That's one of my favorite songs, and it's got a great video as well if you ever see. Set in Uganda, kind of this love story. And this kid gets kidnapped to be like a child soldier in some revolutionary army, and then but it's an awesome song by itself. I really like that song. Hum Hallelujah, Hum Hallelujah. Jesus Christ, hang on. Anytime I start talking, it starts getting in my throat, and the cough comes back. So just drunk some water. Hum Hallelujah is not a bad song, but it's not one of my favorite songs. Golden is quite different. That's just him singing with piano. And I think it's got a little bit of orchestration towards the end, but it's kind of more showing off the singer Patrick Stump's vocal ability. And yeah, it's certainly not a pop punk song in any way whatsoever. Then, Thanks for the Memories, another one of my favorite songs on the album. Don't You Know Who I Think I Am? That's okay. I'm just trying to go through the ones that I really like. Fame, track 12. Fame, Less Than Infamy. I'd say Fame, Less Than Infamy, Thanks for the Memories, I'm Like a Lawyer, and Take Over the Breaks Over my favorite songs on the album. But again, the ones that I haven't mentioned there are all good songs as well, as in well-written, catchy. It's like a really complete album. And that kind of thing, complete albums I find are pretty rare. Like I won't say it's a classic album or anything like that. I guess it needs a bit more time, and it does sound quite of its time. That kind of 2006, 2007 pop, emo, punk, quite glossy production. Oh, it does sound of that time and maybe dates it in some ways, but I think the songs do stand alone by themselves. They're good enough to kind of overcome that. So I just listened through to it, and it's just I forgot how many songs on it that I really enjoyed. So yeah, so looking at the members of the band, don't actually know all their names. The singer's called Patrick Stump. The bassist and main songwriter and kind of almost like de facto band leader is Pete Wentz. And he got a bit of fame outside of the band because he married Ashley Simpson, Jessica Simpson. You might remember her, of her sister. Ashley Simpson, I think, had her own brief pop career around 2005-ish, didn't she? That's the singer. That's his name is Andy Hurley. He's the drummer. The band. The other guitarist, so the Patrick Stump sings and plays guitar, and the other guitarist is Joe. What is his name here? Joe Troman. Joe Troman. And that's Pete Wentz. And the album was produced by Neil Avron, but it does have some other production credits on it from Babyface, who you might remember. He was like a R&B type producer. Who's he produced? He's produced. Let me see. Of course, it's not him when I want it to be. The Bodyguard soundtrack. I guess with like Whitney Houston. Didn't he do that? He did that Eric Clapton album. You know the one, If I Could Save the World. If I Could Save the World. Well, I don't remember the name of that album. But he worked on that with him. But a lot of it doesn't. The thing I'm looking for is not here. But he's Okay, here we go. Here's a list of songs written by Babyface. So Whitney Houston, Casey and JoJo, Tevin Campbell, Tony Braxton, Whitney Houston again, TLC, Usher, Beyonce, Vanessa Williams, Destiny's Child. So he's obviously worked with Justin Bieber. He's worked with some of the biggest R&B, pop, soul, Boys to Men acts in the world. So he's obviously and not just producing, also songwriting as well. But he has a production credit on some of the tracks on this. For example, I'm Like a Lawyer with You. With the Way I'm Always Trying to Get You Off, he produced that. And Thanks for the Memories. Those are the two songs I like the most. That's interesting. Also, Butch Walker. Now, I think Butch Walker, he was in. No, he wasn't. I'm thinking of someone else, Butch Walker. Because Butch Walker is an American singer, songwriter, musician, and record producer. He was lead vocalist and guitarist in the Marvelous Three. I thought it was another Butch. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm kind of going running out of steam here, aren't I? So it's a great album, a very good album. If you like well written pop songs, but with a rock basis and pop. Some of the songs are more pop punk. If you know, like Fame Greater Infamy, I'd say that's more or less a pop punk song. I love the drum beat in that. It's kind of like a disco drum beat. What a thing. Oh, this one also, it's got track 15, GINASFS, which apparently stands for Gay is Not a Synonym for Shitty. That was the bonus track on the UK, Australasian, and New Zealand edition. So the American edition, or I guess the regular edition, the original release is 14 tracks. I've got all this ringing in my ears and none on my fingers. That's the really last track. But then some of the subsequent editions and bonus editions, they added extra songs. And the one that they added for New Zealand is track 15. So after this, like I said, they made Folle à Deux, which I don't know how it did. They also, I remember, did a cover version of Beat It by Michael Jackson, which was okay. But it feels like that's such an overdone thing. You know, we've already had the Alien Ant Farm Smooth Criminal. It just felt like kind of like a rehash of that. Then they had a hiatus from about 2009 to 2013. And I remember reading a short interview with, I think it was Pete Wentz. And he basically said, we're never, ever, ever getting back together. Which is I think a lot of people say from bands when they first kind of break up or go on hiatus. They can't imagine ever being in a situation where they'd want to make music with those people again. And then time progresses and I guess people grow up or bad feelings kind of fall by the wayside, or probably more importantly, money. You know, they're working, having built a name with a band, as well as, you know, this went number one in the US and it sold millions of copies around the world. Building a band to that level of success is such a 1 in a million thing to do. And sometimes we forget how hard it is to do. And then kind of walking away from that and just leaving the brand that you've built and the name you've built and trying to make it on your own or in some other way doesn't always work out as you imagine. I know the singer tried to have a solo career. He made a solo album, but it, you know, basically didn't do anything. I've never heard it. It may be amazing. I don't know, but I know that it sales wise and touring wise, it didn't fulfill anywhere near the success he would have hoped. And the other guys just kind of did bits and pieces, and you know, when the money stops rolling in as much, especially nowadays with, you know, your money comes from touring mostly and merchandise as opposed to CD sales. You know, that's impetus as much as anything to get a band back together. And it sounds like they grew up a little bit, you know. Some of them were quite young. The singer was born in 1984. So when they were at their highest point of success, 84, 94, 2000, he would only be in his mid-20s, early mid-20s. So, you know, it's not always easy when you're going through things at that age, I guess. And so, yeah. Anyway, we'll leave it there. Fall Out Boy, Infinity on High. I'd give it a 4 out of 5, even maybe a 4.5 out of 5. It really does have a lot of great songs together on one album. All right, thanks for watching.